So how intentional are you with your car? Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for the special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. Good afternoon and welcome to the Prudent Money Radio Show. I'm your host, Bob Brooks. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. And I also appreciate the man, the myth, the legend, Tony Joe, who comes on the Prudent Money, the special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. He comes on the program every Friday and we talk cars. So I've been doing it for a very, very long time, which is hard to believe, Tony Joe. 20, what you said a while ago? 26 years. And
well, let me just say it's an honor and a privilege to be able to do it. Thank you for allowing me the privilege.
Well, you know, I've watched you through so many years that you've helped so many people, and what a blessing you are. And you know, this takes time out of your day to come up here and do it, and to do it for the incredible price of free.
Not even a locker.
Now, you're free to take the candy on your way in and on your way out. But even then, I think I'm going to start charging you for that.
I do take more than my share of the candy. That's true.
Yes, I do. I do think so. So if you have a question for Tony Joe, please go to the website, www.prudentmoney.com. At the top of the page, there's a link that says Ask Prudent Money. Make sure that you add as much information about your question as you possibly can for Tony Joe, because this happens all the time. You get a question and goes, well, is it this or is it that? And what is, have they tried this or that? Which you're probably not thinking of these questions, but obviously they're important in answering the question. I think it's an important ministry that we have at Prudent Money. And, when it comes down to, this kind of looks at the bigger picture, when it comes down to why we do the program, it's because you just spend, or you can overspend tons of money on your car through a lifetime. So we want to help you make better decisions and learn how to do that. I came up, one of my favorite words, I was thinking this as we were putting the program together earlier, is the word intentional. I just can think of all how much better I believe how much better our lives could be if we were intentional about doing
more intentional. Good word.
Intentional about being kind and intentional about you could fill in the blank. Blank, but you often don't think about that word when you're talking about your automobile. And the thing is, and of course you see this, know this throughout the 40 plus years you've been working on cars. These problems are so evident they're happening. You're probably the human nature reaction is to ignore it. It'll go away because I don't want to spend the money right now. But if you lived a life of intentionality when it comes to your car and the potential problems that you're having, you could probably end up maybe saving a lot of money.
Probably so. I see it a lot in the real world, and I try to get as much information to people that I can. Because like anything else, information is power. But if you don't have to be an auto technician. You just need to have enough information to not be ripped off. And that's becoming harder and harder to do. However, the purpose of us doing this is to give out as much information as we can. Do what you will with it, but the information is laid out to try to help you. And I know it's a boring topic, automobiles, but it's the second biggest investment most people make in their lives.
I believe that.
Trying to save money, just like you would dispute a late charge on your mortgage that wasn't late, and you'd go after it, I hope, and you would try to solve that problem. You also need to go after certain things on the car that need attention when attention is due. And that will, in the long run, save you money. You'll keep your car for a lot longer. Cars now can go 300,000 miles and not without any money put into them. I mean, there's maintenance, but you can keep your car for 300,000 miles. The average driver drives 12 to 15,000 a year. Think of how many years that is. I don't know. I can't do the math, but I would say a lot.
You know, you said the word crooked, and one of the things that I want to get to in a minute is that we're not trying to say everybody out there is trying to rip you off.
No.
By any stretch like that, but because we definitely always want to point out, in every line of business, there's good people who have the goal of taking care of other people, and then there's people who are there to make money.
Correct.
And it's just
I didn't mean to imply.
No, I know
There's
that. I know that.
Lot of good,
I just was going to jump in there and say that while I was thinking about it. There are a lot of good people. We're worried about the other ones. The
bad guys, right?
They're not going to take care of it. And you were mentioning the expense a second ago of an automobile. I was having lunch with someone today, a good friend, and he said he was talking about the cost of this car that's on order. And he goes, it's 100 plus, talking about what he's going to do with his trade in. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's not almost, when you're talking brand new, upper echelon cars, but easily 100 plus. Can't even imagine.
Isn't that extraordinary? I remember, and I've mentioned this before, the first house I bought back in 1984, $65,000.
Yeah.
Now a car, upper end car, of course, but 100,000. I mean, a brand new 4-wheel drive Suburban Chevrolet will cost over $100,000 if you get it loaded. So I just can't. To me, it's like when I used to tell my grandfather things that he would think were just abhorring with the new generation. This is kind of the age I'm reaching. It's like $105,000 for that vehicle. Anyway, it's just it's a cost that you're going to incur. You don't have to. Nobody's got to pay $100,000 for a car. But I want to point out that normally what I've seen the trends over the years, and it really never fails, the higher the cost of the vehicle, the higher cost of the maintenance. So you have to kind of contend with that when you are thinking about buying a certain vehicle. It may change your choice in a vehicle if you know that fact. That fact still stands today.
I hate to jump to this, but the thought came to my mind. If I don't say it, I might forget it. Mm-hmm. I saw an article the other day that surprised me a bit, and it was the pre-owned car sales have fallen to the same low that they were in 2009. Now think about what happened to that industry in 2007, 8, and 9. I mean, it changed. What happened to that industry changed the landscape of selling pre-owned cars. When they were giving you nothing for your trade-ins,
right.
It was bad. And to think that, according to this article, I wish I would have brought it in here, but to think that they're that bad. The good news is you probably can get a pretty good deal on a car right now.
Exactly. We've been waiting for years for this. Do you remember not too long ago, Bob, how the used car market?
Right.
It was almost, you better off buying a brand new car.
Yeah.
Now we're waiting for this market to stabilize, and it's taken years. But now we're starting to see the numbers stabilize a little bit, which makes sense. It's better to have a stable market and not have this hugely inflated, like houses and cars get sometimes. It's a never-ending roller coaster. The real estate market's always going up or down. So is the car market. But right now, the used car market, which is where a lot of us can afford to fall into when buying a vehicle, is starting to stabilize, and I'm so glad to see it. Good point. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, it's odd because you don't really see. Okay, you see these statistics come out, and you think, well, I should see this as evidence in car sales, mm-hmm. and you look at you go to autotrader.com, you don't see it. No, you see these higher prices, mm-hmm. and it's just I can't put my finger on it. But there's something very odd. It's either a slow a slow kill that's developing over the economy, which is a definite possibility because everything's acting a little bit like this, where it's not blatant in the numbers, but there's you're starting to see the cracks,
right?
And they're big cracks.
And if you remember, this is just something that I thought of. Remember, after the 08,
oh man.
You said 09, the car market is back to where it was in 09. Don't forget, 1 year after that, GM went bankrupt.
Yes.
And so did Chrysler.
Yep.
Ford hung on, but just barely. And now they've got problems. But that's a whole different ball of wax.
I don't know if you remember this, but talking about kind of changing the landscape of buying and selling cars. If you brought a car to a dealership and said you wanted to trade it in, and they would only give you what they could take to a wholesale
right.
auction,
they call it wholesale value,
and sell it.
That's right.
And so you're getting nothing for that car. And I remember that as that was yesterday. In fact, thinking back, there was a lot of the dealerships got wiped out. I mean, it was bad.
Yes, it was. It was terrible. It was a very
that's one weird because it didn't feel anything nearly like that today. But yet you're getting the comparison. Yeah, no, I agree with you. But the comparison of situations, not a good set of the numbers you want to be competing against.
No, not exactly a brightened horizon.
So, I was thinking that when you're buying a car, and this became evident to me a long time ago when a friend of mine bought I believe it was an Audi, one of the big 7-seaters.
Okay.
And brought his car to the dealership to get checked out. And the guy comes out, this was years ago, and said, we need to do a brake job on your vehicle. Now these Audis are heavy, big old vehicles, and you wipe out a set of tires, and probably once a year. But he says like $45,000 or $5,000 to do a brake job, and I just got to thinking, I wonder if he would have bought one if he knew that was the going price. Do you think that there is, as far as maintaining an automobile, the service costs, all that, when you put that all together, do you think that there is actually differences between car companies, or are they kind of really close together? I mean, you would kind of make the assumption that some are going to be more expensive, way more expensive than others, but in the reality of it, are they kind of playing by the same cost structure?
Well, in the sense of the dealerships, yes. The dealerships,
of course, dealerships
are going
to
they're going to stick pretty much to the same business model, and you have to realize that okay, let me just say this: $5,000 to do a brake job. That's a little bit, no, I would not say that was fair and equitable to the consumer. However, you have to consider that the Audi dealership is going to have to use all Audi parts and all Audi brand materials, and their labor costs are generally higher than, say, an independent shop. But the inflated price of $5,000 for a brake job, no, he probably wouldn't have bought that car had he known that was what he was going to be in for. However, anybody that I know is not going to go in depth and find out how much all these maintenance costs are going to be when they're considering buying a car. They want the car. It looks good. It's something they want. Probably can afford it. But in my experience, even though they can afford to pay $5,000 for the brake job and probably not even question it, to me, that's still a big waste.
Right.
It just hurts my feelings to see that kind of stuff. I know that's not really true. And it hurts me to see all this money being paid for things that really, that's not necessary. But who am I to judge if they want to take it to the dealership and have that, there's cheaper ways to do it. But I guess if you don't care and are willing to pay the price, then then that's their business.
Well, and this violates the law, Tony's law. We'll just call it. If the cost is more than $500, you get a second opinion.
It violates the whole law of why we do this program.
Right.
We try to save money and not get expensive repairs unnecessarily.
Well, let's talk a little bit about let me back up. Make this point before we go forward, and that is you've got to consider this component with the purchase of a car. You really have to get out and do your research and find out, is this car very is it going to be a big expense along the way? Because that you can think of just right off the top of your head, there's a lot of European cars that just something goes wrong, a normal thing goes wrong, you're driving up to that dealership and it's going to cost a lot of money.
Yes, and that's often the case. If you're going to consider repairs or even scheduled maintenance on the car that you're going to purchase, then you have to consider doing some research, because there will be forums and so forth that you can look at and see the normal Bob, there's in my experience, there's common failures with every make and model. Okay, there's common problems with whatever the car is. No car is going to be completely maintenance-free or perfect in any way, but there are commonalities between make and models that you can look up online and say, well, I can expect this because this is a common failure to that make and model. So how much does it cost and blah, blah, blah. And you can kind of do a little bit of investigative research before you make a choice.
I guess at some point we start to read each other's minds, because I was just about to say, is there a resource you can go to, and you got to be careful with what you find on the web, but are there resources you can go to that you can find out about these issues that are specific to a car brand you may really look for or looking to buy?
Yes, there is. And it takes a little bit of digging, but I am going to investigate something that I ran across one time when I didn't have time to really get into it. There was an average cost of maintenance over the first 100,000 miles.
Oh,
now, that would be an interesting thing to give out
right.
the website for that. Now, I'll have to look into that. It was one of those late nights. I was working on something, and I was trying to find an answer, and I glossed over that, and I thought, wow, that's pretty incredible. I'll get back to that sometime. And, of course, I never do until there's a reason for it.
What's interesting about that, just like you would check that statistic, check the safety record. I mean, you would check. That's just something else that you would. A
lot of women, especially, who make a lot of the decisions on the car buying process, still to this day, they do. I noticed one of the things that's really popular for females, especially with kids, they want to know the safety record of that vehicle.
I want to know the safety record.
Guys, not so much, but you're different, okay? And would I? Probably not, but that doesn't mean I'm anywhere near normal. Most people would want to know.
We established that a long time ago.
Especially the females are the ones. Because I talk to, when the woman brings in the car, I like the safety, I like to love the safety rating on this car. I got a 5 stars or something. And I'm like, well, women do that a lot.
And you told me one time that this is not a call to go buy an advertisement or anything like that. You said at one time to me that Subaru at the time was the safest car. Is that still?
Subaru is right up there, but Volvo was number one.
Oh, Volvo's.
And then Subaru, I think, is right behind it, but don't quote me on that. But I do remember Volvo being one of the safest vehicles ever made and ever put on the market in a crash test.
Okay, so this is kind of interesting. There was I looked up for the cheapest cars in America to maintain.
Okay.
And did not get the list that I thought I would get.
Okay.
And you've commented a little bit as we talked about this, but what's interesting, and
I have a problem with that first one.
Yeah. So you, we couldn't even get off go with this list. But the first one was the Tesla Model 3, which I guess is their cheapest one. I don't know.
It is. It's the slumber vehicle. It's the cheapest one they.
So, you said it yourself, which is true. Anything happens to that battery outside of warranty, I would assume it being outside of warranty, you're going to have to write a check for, and it is expensive. I mean, that one cost could catapult everything over the top.
Right.
So having said that, that's your number one cheapest car in America. So is the Tesla Model 5 is on that list. The Tesla Model Y, same premise, I would assume. But you said before I started, I told you about this article, that the Toyota was the one that would, and it was number 2.
Yeah, that's Toyota. The one I would think. I'd put Toyota probably at the top, other than the Tesla, which we dispute on that. But anyway, yeah, Toyota is I can only go, now listen, I am not, let me preface this by saying I am only talking about my own personal experience in my repair shop over the time that I've been working on cars. So it's not like a survey like you have in front of you, but I do agree with number 2, Toyota.
Yeah, and then there was actually Toyota was on there six times. Tesla was on there about 6 times, and you had Honda, of course, is going to make its appearance with the. Let's see, where is Honda?
Is Lexus in there anywhere?
Yeah, under Toyota.
Yeah, because Lexus and Toyota are pretty much,
they have the same chassis, don't they?
Yes. Well, they have a lot of the same engines, and they have a lot more than just the same chassis. But it's a high-end Toyota,
right?
Is what I call it.
Are they this? I don't know this. Does Toyota own Lexus?
They did. Do they to this day? I think they do. Yes, but. You're asking me off-the-wall stuff. I can't.
Probably.
I don't want to say the wrong thing because I haven't looked in years, but Toyota used to own Lexus.
I would imagine, though, if you took the high-end Toyota SUV to the high-end Lexus SUV, there's probably a good 20,000. What do you think?
In price, yes.
Probably something like that. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. Tony Joe's here, as he is every Friday, to talk cars. And if you got a question for Tony Joe, go to prudentmoney.com. Send it in at the top of the page. There's a link to Ask Prudent Money, and we'll get you taken care of. That is all there at the website, prudentmoney.com. There's something else, too, that has always bothered me. We've talked about it. Is that you go into a brake shop and where you can spend an awful lot of money on that 99.99 brake service. And you said, rephrase this for me, because I'm not going to say exactly like you said it because I can't really recall exactly how you said it. But you said something to the effect of it's the answer to replacing a whole brake job is very subjective to what your personal feelings of safety are. Correct.
Brake job. What does that mean? Well, complete brake job. Okay, what does that mean? Define it. You need to list this stuff you need to itemize everything on the work order, what you did to those brakes. And I just point out, Bob, one thing, not to be funny, but what about the guy in the Audi you mentioned earlier in the program? Goes into the Brake Plus for $99 special.
Yeah, it probably doesn't compute at all. This is Bob Brooks. If you got a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com and send it in because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time, keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.